Okay, hi everybody. Thank you for joining. It's me, Sunny. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna show you a clip of uh, the president of the Heritage Foundation, who actually is one of the 100 people that has come up with the Project 2025. Okay, and please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. All right, here we go.
Well, Professor, my great friend, thanks for filling in and doing a great job. Three things. Number one, in spite of the importance of Congress doing its job, but we also know the importance of the executive being able to do his job. And can you imagine, Dave?
Okay, can y'all hear him now? Put a 1 in the chat. I'm gonna start all of it again so you can hear him. Okay, I hear these dogs and stuff. Okay.
Well, Professor, my great friend, thanks for filling in and doing a great job. Three things. Number one, in spite of all this nonsense from the left, we are going to win.
Okay.
We're in the process of taking this country back. No one in the audience should be despairing. No one should be discouraged. We ought to be really encouraged by what happened yesterday. And in spite of all of the injustice, which of course, friends and audience of this show, of our friend Steve know, we are going to prevail. Number two, to the point of the clips and of course, your preview of the fact that I am an early American historian and love the Constitution, that Supreme Court ruling yesterday on immunity is vital. And it's vital for a lot of reasons, but I would go to Federalist number 70. If people in the audience are looking for something to read over Independence Day weekend, in addition to rereading the Declaration of Independence, read Hamilton's number 70, because there, along with some other essays, he talks about the importance of a vigorous executive. You know, former congressman, the importance of Congress doing its job, but we also know the importance of the executive being able to do his job. And can you imagine, Dave Pratt, any president, put politics off to the side, any president having to second guess, triple guess every decision they're making in their official capacity? You couldn't have the republic that you just described. But number three, let me speak about the radical left. You and I have both been parts of faculties and faculty senates and understand that the left has taken over our institutions. The reason that they are apoplectic right now, the reason that so many anchors on MSNBC, for example, are losing their minds daily is because our side is winning. And so I come full circle in this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be.
Okay, so that is the president of the Heritage Foundation. He is. Can y'all see me? Hold on. He is the. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Hey, my kiddo, long time no see. BB's here. Sweet Potato. Hello, everybody. Stacy B is here. Hello, Gwen. Learning to love myself. I appreciate you all being here tonight. I think I have some people watching that I talked to today. This weekend, Saturday or Friday. My days are mixed up. Anyway, Male MC. Wow, girl, how you doing? So W1 will be joining us in a minute here. I'm on StreamYard for the second time. So I'm learning how to use this and navigate this. So y'all just bear with me. So we're going to go over some of what's going on today in politics. They are riding my boy Joe Biden hard. CNN. We just found out, hey, NYC, We just found out that there is someone that is a Fox lover and a Fox supporter that has purchased or is part owner of CNN. So now we understand what is going on with CNN, right? Because they keep talking about Joe Biden and him stepping down and blah, blah, blah. And all this. We need to move on. We need to stick together if we're going to do this. Can you all hear me? Okay, I had to change my microphone. So I wanted to get into this Project 2025 because I think it's very important that you all get an understanding of Project 2025. Now, it is a 920-page document. I'm going to go over it in the next weeks, probably months, and try to break this down as best that I know how. I'm going to read it for what it is, okay? Let me see if I can drop this link one more time for W1. I hope you all had a great weekend. Okay, I dropped it again. And if Mel NYC would like to come up, like I said, when I'm gonna go over a few of this project 2025, and W1 is supposed to come up and talk and give y'all some insight because I know how much you all love to see him here and have a conversation with him because he knows a lot of what's going on because we talk about all this stuff all the time. And I hope that you all are out talking to people because there's only 1 in 4 people that know about Project 2025. Now, I did drop some of my old videos when I talked about the white Christian nationalist group from 2022 because this is who Project 2025, these are these people, right? And so I just want you all to know what it is. And I'm not telling you who to go vote for, but I'm telling you that Project 2025 is a real thing. It's not fake. Donald Trump can sit here and tell you all day long that he doesn't know anything about it. He does because the Heritage Foundation helped him with some of the other things that he did when he was in office before. So like I said last week, that the Heritage Foundation was part of helping the Reagan administration set their goals and their laws when it took effect. And they had a lot to do with the LGBT community back in the 80s when people were finally coming out in the 70s. And when they were good, they were happy, they felt a little bit more freedom. It wasn't until the Reagan administration came in that made the LGBT community during that time feel as though they're having issues. They had a lot of issues. They had a lot of hate happen to them. And that was because of the Heritage Foundation. Okay. Because they helped establish a lot of the laws and stuff like that. And that's what they're going to do with Donald Trump. The man has already said before that when Trump comes in, gets into office, they are going to implement, they're going to take about 180 federal jobs. They're going to fire everyone out of the federal government and replace them with MAGA supporters. Okay, so if you go to Project 2025 site, I think BB did last week. Hello, W1.
Hey there, good afternoon. Or good evening.
Good evening. When where was I? You kind of threw me off. You know I'm menopause. Anyway, when what was I saying? I just went blank. Can you hear me, W1? Okay. Anyway, so I forgot. I'm sure to come back to me. This is what happens when you go through the pause, honey. The pause is real. Believe that. So let me try to find one of these documents. Is this it right here? Yes. So when he gets in office, thank you, Gwen. So when he gets in office, they're going to get rid of 100. Hi, Yoli. They're going to replace the workers with Trump loyalties. Thank you, Yoli. Appreciate it. And that's their goal. They want to come into the government and start gutting it and replacing people with their MAGA supporters. They have already gotten rid of Roe versus Wade. This is part of the Project 25. Sorry. They've already gotten rid of Roe versus Wade. They have started implementing Christianity into schools. So far, I believe it's Louisiana. They have put up the 10 Commandments on the walls in Louisiana. And in Oklahoma, they have put a Bible on every teacher's desk in the state of Oklahoma that they have to teach from the Bible. Okay, that is now one of their rules they have to follow in Oklahoma. What else has been implemented so far? Don't we want to start talking? Probably can't hear me. There you go. Hello.
Hey, you can hear me?
Yeah, we can
Oh,
hear you.
okay. I was having some problems with the microphone. No, Sonny. First of all, uh, the Heritage Foundation, they have all the rights in America to exist. They have been around for a very long time. Just as the far right has think tanks, the far left has think tanks. Uh, this Project 2025, talking about heritage foundations, you and I were talking about this years ago. But, someone says it on the BET Awards and all of a sudden it's like a hot topic.
Right.
But they've been around for a long time. But it's not only the Heritage Foundation. The Cato Institute is another think tank that creates very popular Republican and far right narratives. Also, AEI, that's one of the bigger think tanks. I think that's the largest. But it's just a group of people who has an agenda and they write manifestos, documents that they shop around to congressmen, subsequently presidential candidates. So this is nothing out the ordinary. What makes this special is this guy's actually going on TV and talking about it. I don't think I've ever seen a think tank person or a representative actually go on major television networks and actually brag about the agenda. So this is a little different. The mere fact that this particular agenda and their talking points are filled with these shocking revelations is another thing. Usually, the narrative is very soft edged. Specifically, way back when Ronald Reagan was president, they wanted what they called the moral majority and the return to a decent America. Um, and everyone knew this was acceptable in certain parts of the United States, right?
Right.
Because, quote unquote, Jimmy Carter brought chaos. So they needed someone to replace Jimmy Carter. They came up with a narrative of a better moral majority, more conservative like policies, trickle down economics, so on and so forth. And then came Ronald Reagan. Uh, this latest edition of the agenda for the Heritage from the Heritage Foundation really speaks of some radical changes to the government. And I think you just hit on the major points which they cover. So that's what's getting the attention. That's what's everyone is kind of shaking their head like, wait a minute, what's going on? But I just wanted to say they have a right to exist. They have a right to their opinion. They've been around a long time. But hopefully everyone needs to understand what's at stake and what they will provide or put in front of the next president of the United States.
Right. So they have pillars here.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let me show my screen. You can keep talking, honey. You hear me?
Oh yeah. Um, yeah, like I said, they've been around a long time, and they're not the only ones. Once again, it's been the Cato. You guys can Google this stuff. It's the Cato Foundation, AEI, um, and they come up with narratives. Some of you may have heard some of them before. Things like, hey, quote, what has Obama done for black people? That came out of a think tank. And what they do, they create these narratives that then goes on the media circuit. And then all of a sudden you hear your next door neighbor or coworker saying the same exact sentences, phrases. But that's how they get it into the ecosphere and the language and the speak of the American public. Um, and just like the Cato Institute, AEI, and Heritage Foundation, um, there are left-leaning think tanks that come out with their own narratives. Vote Democratic, vote blue, um, vote for democracy is a vote for the Democrats. Vote for civil rights, it's the Democrats. Um, this is nothing new. Again, the only game changer here is the language that's part of this particular 2025 narrative. It's a little scary,
A little bit.
um, and it goes against the grain of what I've seen before. Um, so this is why it's important to know, at least be aware of some of the finer points of this document. And by the way, it's online for everyone in the entire world to read. They have a website, and you can go to each page and read it for yourself. They're not making this one a secret. It's not something that is done in the back room any longer. They have the internet, and they actually publish this.
Yes. This is I found this one, I guess, oh, it says NPR actually got it and put it out there, where normally you have to go in um, and put in all your information for you to get the document. So someone went in and put the document out there. So hello to everyone that's joining me right now. W1 is here. And I'm gonna go over some of this. And like I said, I'm gonna do it. As you can see, it's 920 pages. Um, and it's scary for women and you know, people that are in the LGBTQ community, because they're going to strip away your rights. It's just that simple. So they don't even want women to vote. Okay. When they say make it great again, they want to go back to where the 1930s, 40s, 50s, right? They don't
Yep.
believe women should have the right to vote. Uh, because I guess women are not capable. And when women vote, women are the reason for causing the issues we have now. This is what some of these people believe. There's over 100 of these people that contribute to this. The conservative promise. Well, here's the name of it. Whew. The advisory board is Alabama Policy Institute, Alliance Defending Freedom, American Compass, the American Conservative, America's First Legal Foundation, American Accountability Foundation, American Center for Law and Justice, American Cornerstone Institute, American Council of Trustees and Alumni, blah, blah, blah. And let me also say this. People are now going out saying that it is not real. It is a Democratic hoax. Okay.
They could go to project2025.org.
Right.
ORG. It's there in living color.
It's there. Um, they say here we want you. The 2025 Presidential Transition Project is the conservative movement's unified effort to be ready for the next conservative administration to govern at 12 noon, January 2025. Welcome to the mission. Okay, it's a whole book. History teaches that president's power of implementing an agenda is as its apex during the administration's opening days. To execute requires a well-conceived, coordinated, unified plan and a trained and committed cadre of personnel to implement it. In recent election cycles, presidential candidates normally began transition planning in the late spring of the election year, or even after the party's nomination was secured. That is too late. The federal government's complexity and growth advance at a seemingly, how you say that word right?
Oh, I can't see
W1?
it.
You
I
can't
can't
see
see it.
it.
No.
I can't say that word. Um, rate every 4 years. For conservatives to have fighting chance to take on the administrative state and reform our federal government, the work must start now. The entirety of this effort is to support the next conservative president, whoever he or she may be. In the winter of 1980, the Fledgling Heritage Foundation handed to President elect Ronald Reagan the inaugural mandate for leadership. The collective work by conservative thought leaders and former government hands, most of whom were not part of the heritage, set out policy prescriptions, agencies by agency, for the
Mhm.
incoming president. The book literally put the conservative movement and Reagan on the same page, and the revolution that followed might never have been, save for this band of committed and volunteer activists. With this volume, we have gone back to the future and then some. And let me say this before I go on. Someone brought up to my attention that the Heritage Foundation also may have been a big part in playing in Ronald Reagan's trying to find the right words when the part that he played in the crack epidemic.
Indirectly.
So I found that to be very interesting, and I said I didn't think about it like that, but you know what? You might be right. So so I say all that to say that these people are playing chess.
Yes.
They have an agenda.
Hmm.
We had a lot of laws that were set out, which was stop and frisk in the 80s, right? W1.
Yes, that's correct.
So and what we're doing is we're going backwards, right? So these people are serious about what they're saying. I showed you the president. He's already said if the liberals act right, then there won't be any bloodshed. Basically, that's what he's saying. Okay. Um,
I,
let's
I,
see. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a few points to highlight. And again, some of this, I don't know. Maybe some of your listening audiences would agree to some of this stuff, but some of it may not be radical. It's just a different way of approaching how government is run. But I just want to add to what you said, Sonny. The Project 2025, they have four major pillars. One is the policy agenda. This is stuff developing detailed policy, kind of like procedures and key issues.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the broad thing. Number two, which to me was probably the scariest, this is just my opinion, is a personnel database. They want to create a personnel database. And they want to have this database existing to identify and recruiting conservative individuals to implement these policies. So they're going to go across America, and they have started from middle school all the way through high school, colleges, just recruiting the next wave of conservative voters. Nothing wrong with that, but I just have a problem with data collection. The next is training. I just alluded to that, which is education, passing it through, again, from the middle school ranks, going to high school campuses, talking about the agenda. And fourth, they have something they call a 180-day playbook. So the incoming presidents or president, they're going to create a plan to implement in the first 180 days of the administration. I think you just mentioned that.
You're right.
Um, just reading through this document, and again, you may have covered this too. It's the reproductive rights. That's the biggest thing, right? Cutting the federal health funding for providers to offer abortion services. That's already in play. They have item for civil right protections. This initiative aims to roll back civil right protections, including cutting diversity, equity, inclusion, all those programs, the DEI.
Right.
This is already in play. And I think you and I talked about this the other day. The educational policies, it seeks to defund public schools, remove protections for students, and eliminate high quality curricula that, anything having to do with comprehensive reproductive health education.
Mm-hmm.
That is also in play. All these things are in play already. So, because they've actually succeeded in electing a president, and contributing to the first Trump presidency, which contributed to specific judges being added on the civil and also the Supreme Court levels. So there's a lot of things in play. So some of the writings in this project 2025 is not really a plan, it's stuff that's already happening.
Right. Exactly right. You know what? I'm gonna see if I can drop this the link to the document in the chat, and then you all can actually have it for yourself. Okay. Because I will. Let me see if I can drop.
Oh, and I also forgot my favorite,
Yeah.
which they've been pushing this for many years, is voting rights.
Yes.
So this is restricting voting rights as much as possible, such as implementing stricter voter ID laws, which I don't have a problem with that, but reducing early voting opportunities, purging voter rolls. We've seen that in the great states of Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and these changes could obviously disproportionately affect minority and low income voters who don't have access or easy access to the polls, and also potentially reducing the voter turnout. Really nice, neat, old fashioned tricks, but I forgot their old voter rights part of their agenda.
So it's a lot.
It's a
I mean,
lot, isn't
it's so
it? It's their playbook.
right. It's their playbook. It's so scary that you have to laugh so you don't cry. Um, so or get scared or get because we are no, we understand that they're not going to be able to implement this all into the first 180 days, right?
Correct.
It's
Correct.
going to take time, and you have to go through the courts and all that kind of stuff.
Correct.
And it also depends on the House and the Senate, right? So, am I right, W1?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But obviously, getting a president in place to pass executive orders to bypass
Mm-hmm.
and also to get the judges that they want in place could have a domino effect that can last for decades.
Right, because we talked about Roe versus Wade, and we talked about you and I did, and we talked about
Hmm.
how it's going to be a whole generation before that law will even be back. You know,
Probably two or maybe two
yeah.
generations, because if you look, the judges that were recently placed in the Supreme Court, they're very young,
Mm-hmm.
and that means they're going to be judges for decades to come, upholding and making sure that whatever that was changed over the last 3-4 years, especially the last year, will be in place as far as they're concerned for a long time to come.
Okay, so I want to read Stacey B's comment really quick. She says MLK was a Republican. Disclaimer: Black Republicans back then are today's Democrats due to political ideological shifts of the civil rights era. Okay. So when they start talking points, these Black Republicans of today,
Yeah,
and they talk about,
that's my
oh,
favorite.
MLK was a Republican.
Yeah, I
You
love
know, the
those.
Democrats were
Yeah. Lincoln was a Republican.
right.
I love those. Those are funny to me.
Okay, so promise number one It says, restore the family at the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. The next conservative president must get to work pursuing the true priority of politics, the well-being of the American family. In many ways, okay, before I even get started with this, weren't they the ones that said they didn't want anything to do with government being in people's personal lives? I keep looking at myself in the thing.
That's true. Yes.
They didn't want anything to do with that.
Yes.
They didn't want big government. They wanted to break the government down and make it smaller. But what they're doing right now is they are interfering in everybody's life that sits here, everybody that's watching, the billion of people that's on YouTube channels, and these doggone Black Republicans. They're interfering into your life. Right. Okay. In many ways, the entire point of centralization political power is to subvert the family. Its purpose is to replace people's natural loves and loyalty with unnatural ones. What does that mean?
Oh, I know what this means. So part of the reading this is amazing. Part of the things they would love to do is to roll back LGBTQ protections. So Project 2025 aims to eliminate protections for LGBTQ plus individuals in healthcare, education, and workplaces. So all of this includes reversing policies that may prevent discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Hence, uh, erasing all that's done over the last probably 16 years and going back to, let's say, a point, maybe, I don't know, I'll just pick a year here, 1984.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that means.
Okay. Y'all got that? Okay. It says, you see this in the popular left-wing aphorism. Government is simply the name we give to the things we choose to do together. But in real life, most of the things people do together have nothing to do with government. These are mediating institutions that serve as the building blocks of any healthy society: marriage, family, work, church, school, volunteering. Okay. I had to sit back because I hadn't even read. I read only like bullet points to this stuff. I haven't even got in here and started breaking this down like this.
Yeah, that too is also a cute little thing that I'm hearing a lot of people speak of. To my good friends leaning right, I've heard quite a bit about America being a republic, not a democracy. So simply put, that's stating that we're really not a country that's run in a democratic way. It's really a republic based on individualism. Case in point, when we cast a vote, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a bunch of us casting a vote, but ultimately there is a group of people that actually determines how the state votes, hence the electoral vote.
Okay.
So they're saying it's a republic, it's not a democracy. So it's slicing of the hair here. So, but it goes against basic constitutional stuff. But that's a nice little cute point that they love inserting in many of their documents.
It's kind of scary here. So the name real people give to the things we do together is community, not government. Our lives are full of interwoven, overlapping communities, and our individual and collective happiness depends upon them. But the most important community in each of our lives and the life of the nation is family.
Yeah. Okay. So that again covers a blanket, and nicely tucks in their moral stance on idealism and going back to the days of Ronald Reagan,
right?
Very conservative, family-based policies.
Right. That's where they want it. Exactly.
Well, that's what they want to. That's the cover of the book, basically. Right. So, but then you elect a president that's a felon and slept with porn stars. I don't know if that goes hand in hand, but anyway, so, I digress.
So we've already. I mean, you're putting in a person that's the biggest hypocrite for what you're trying to put on to the rest of the people. It doesn't add up. Okay. Today, the American family is in crisis. 40% of all children are born to unmarried mothers, including more than 70% of Black children. We're going to have to look that up. There's no government. Now, this is going to piss me off because, no, I'm serious. Because they always try to find a way to say that Black children or Black people, there are no fathers in the homes of Black families. Okay. So now you're going to throw this up in my face as a Black person and say, oh, 70% of Black children have mothers that, you know, the fathers are not in the home. Well, why aren't they in the home? Right? Let's go back to the 80s. Let's talk about Reagan administration. Let's talk about the crack epidemic.
You're going,
I guess they forgot about that.
Yeah, you're going way back to the root, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to the root of it. Because there were, you know, they had the mother and the daddy was home with the families back in the day. It was the Reagan administration that tore that down, right? That's my opinion. Okay. When they infiltrated and put the drugs into the communities.
Correct.
Okay. I divert. Anyway. There is no government program that can replace the hole in a child's soul cut out by the absence of a father. Fatherlessness is one of the principal sources of American poverty, crime, mental illness, teen suicide, substance abuse, rejection of the church.
There it is.
And high school dropouts. So many of the problems government programs are designed to solve, but can't, are ultimately problems created by the crisis of marriage and the family.
Okay. If you would pause right there, that entire section you wrote is BS.
Right.
And what they're trying to do is limit healthcare access. So if you read through the document, this is what they're trying to do. This initiative aims to push more people from traditional Medicare and Medicaid, actually, to private Medicare Advantage plans. So for those of you that are in healthcare, I love healthcare. These plans often provide like benefits to folks at a higher out of pocket cost. So what they're trying to do with this move is like a bigger strategy to privatize healthcare services, thus reducing government involvement. But when you push healthcare to private companies, like the biggest company, for example, United Healthcare, what that does, that increases prices. This is a classic argument, by the way. And it really puts the onus on these private corporations to provide adequate health. Most of the times throughout history, private corporations actually seeks higher profits rather than treating the patient. So this is an old Republican pro-corporate move. So this is what they're kind of alluding to in that pocket statement there.
Okay. Where was I? Design a solid but can ultimately marriage family. The world has never seen a thriving, healthy, free, and prosperous society where most children grow up without their married parents. If current trends continue, we are heading towards a social implosion. Furthermore, the next conservative president must understand that using government alone to respond to symptoms of the family crisis is a dead end. Federal power must instead be wielded to reverse the crisis and rescue America's kids from familial breakdown. The conservative promise includes dozens of specific policies to accomplish the existential task. Some are obvious and long-standing goals like eliminating marriage penalties in federal welfare programs and the tax code and installing work requirements for food stamps. But we must go further. It's time for policymakers to elevate family authority, formation, and cohesion as their top priority, and even use government power,
There it is.
including That is crazy.
No,
Including through the tax code to restore the American family.
boom. So with that statement there, another point in the document, they are interested in religious influence in government. So Project 2025 aims to infuse government policies and programs with conservative Christian values. That is a theme that is repeated throughout the entire document. And all this, Sonny, includes promoting religious exemptions in various areas, potentially undermining the separation of church and state. We're already seeing that in the good old state of Alabama. Um, so,
Mhm.
not your religion, not my religion. If I am not of the Christian religion, uh, but it's putting that back and blending it with government policies. A big part of Project 2025.
Right. Today, the left is threatening the tax exempt status of churches and charities that reject woke progressism. Right? They will soon turn to Christian schools and
There it
clubs
is.
with
There it
the
is.
same totalitarian intent. The next conservative president must make the institutions of American civil society hard targets for woke culture warriors.
Hmm.
This starts this starts with deleting the terms sexual orientation and gender identity,
Bam. So there's
diversity, equity, and inclusion.
right there it is. So they saying plain English right there. No more DEI, no more LGBTQ plus. Get that out of here. We
Yep.
don't want that.
The
Some
DEI.
people agree with that. Some people don't. I mean, it's just their stance. They're just putting out here in plain English. You make the decision when you're standing in that voting booth in November.
And and woke people, they put woke in here. They're trying to get rid of your wokeness. Okay.
I was
I don't
surprised
want
at
to.
that one. That was like a little like a personal jab there. I'm not.
Yeah,
I,
yeah, I was thrown off by that too. Woke.
they
Okay.
could have used a little bit more professional terminology there, but I think the author probably wrote that uh, after I don't know drinking some brandy late on Friday night. That sounds personal.
It is personal because Keyshawn Wilson said they're just scared they're going to be wiped out. I've been saying that. We're gonna talk about that later. Okay, so gender equality, gender equity, gender awareness, gender sensitive, abortion, reproductive health, reproductive rights, and any
Hmm.
other term used to deprive Americans of their First Amendment rights out of every federal rule,
Yep.
agency regulation, contract, grant regulation, and piece of legislations that exist.
Yep.
Pornography manifested today in the
Hmm.
omnipresent propagation of transgender ideology and sexualization of children.
Yep.
For instance, it's not a political Gordian not to extra, how you say that, man? In
Oh,
extra capability. I don't know how to say the word. In extra, I can't say it. Binding up desperate claims about free speech, property rights, sexual liberation, and child welfare. It has no claim to First Amendment protection.
hmm.
Its purveyors are child predators and misogynistic exploiters of women. The
Yep.
product is
Sound.
as addictive as any illicit drug and as psychologically destructive as any crime.
Yes. And if you go back in time, you can go on Google or whatever your favorite search engine is. This sounds like a piece of the playbook from the moral majority back in the 80s when they were stating that video games, violent video games, and porn on this thing called the internet will be the destruction of society.
Meanwhile, the man they put in office is sleeping with porn stars.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but yes,
I mean, make that make sense.
he actually used that to his advantage.
Okay, child. Okay. Pornography manifested today in this omnipresent propagation of transgender. Did I read that already?
I
I
think
did.
so, but it's stay away from porn. It's
Basically.
bad. Stay away from LGBTQ plus. That's bad.
And let me be clear about this, because I think a lot of those people that are telling you to stay away from things like that are the main ones that's watching it and doing it and getting caught in bathrooms, getting caught, or having to confess about, you know, being with little girls, because most of this is the older white man's agenda. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. In our schools, the question of parental authority over their children's education is a simple one. Schools serve parents, not the other way around. That is, of course, the best argument for universal school choice, a
Mhm.
goal all conservatives and all conservative parents must pursue. But even before we achieve the long-term goal, parents' rights as their children's primary educators should be not negotiable in American schools.
Wow.
Says the people who are putting Bibles on desks, forcing teachers to teach from the Bible. Correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're doing is
Mhm.
you're being hypocritical, because you're forcing teachers to teach out of something because you, Project 2025, all 100 of you people that have contributed this hot stinking mess, is forcing people to go by what you think they should do. But you don't want, what they're essentially doing is taking away your freedoms. But they're trying to say here, oh, well, this is what these people want. This is what the right, it's all about what the right Christian, white national Christian people want, or Christian nationalists want. These are Christian nationalists. This is what they are.
Yeah, but also another pillar of the uh I call it a manifesto. You may argue me down with that word, but I think it's a manifesto. Let's call it, I'm gonna stick with agenda. Another part of this agenda is the student loan program. So this is just part of it, Sonny. Um, I forgot what page I wrote, but the plan also increases costs for student loan borrowers. Remember when Biden says he was gonna do the whole debt cancellation stuff, and in parts he got through, some parts were blocked. Um, what they want to do is to end all of those existing programs that allow for debt cancellation. So they're gonna do that by reducing the availability of affordable repayment plans. Very slick. Probably won't go by all facets of Congress right now, but this is part of the agenda. So if they get this done, this could really lead to higher default rates, greater financial strain on students.
Mm-hmm.
But whoever owns the loans, corporations or banks, that's good news for them. It's a nice trick. But
Yeah,
they're wordsmithing it here. But that's basically what they want to do. Again, put most of the power back into corporate hands.
right. So it says here, in our schools, the question of parental authority over the children's education is simple. Schools serve as parent. Oh, I read out that part already. Okay, because I saw something here I want to talk about. It says the Knoxius tenets of critical race theory and gender ideology should be excised
Get
from
yeah,
curricula in every public school in the country.
yeah.
These theories poison our children, who are being taught, on the one hand, to affirm that the color of their skin fundamental, fund, fundamentally
Mhm.
determines their identity and even
Nice.
their moral status, while on the other, they are taught to deny the very creaturelessness
Uh huh.
that inheres in being human and consists in accepting the giveness of our nature as men or women.
Yep. So this is a point and a pillar that the one Clarence Thomas stands on almightily, very high. This is old. And this is a discussion probably for an entire different show. But this is the old critical race theory discussion. Acceptance into universities and jobs and so on and so forth should not be determined by your skin color, but by the merit of your, I don't know, uh, whatever, your qualifications. So essentially, it's just ending anything having to do with DEI programs, anything having to do with looking at um, minorities as a basis of letting them into schools and universities, jobs, so on and so forth. Essentially, tearing away a big part of the civil rights movement um, and the equaling of American society. Again, you have folks that are saying, there's nothing wrong with that. And then you have folks going, well, wait a minute, America's not fully integrated, everything is. But that's what that speaks to. That's old classic Heritage Foundation. That's also in the Cato Institute documents, AEI, that think tank. They're big on that too. Old school stuff right there.
It says here, but the pro-family promise expressed in this book and central to the next conservative president's agenda must go much further than the traditional narrow definition of family issues. Every threat to family stability must be confronted. This resolve, this resolve should color each of our policies. Consider our approach to big tech. The worst of the companies prey on children, like drug dealers, to get them addicted to their mobile apps. Many Silicon Valley executives famously don't let their own children have smartphones. They nevertheless make billions of dollars addicting other people's children to theirs. TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms are specifically designed to create the digital, we go down here, dependencies that fuel mental illness and anxiety to fray children's bonds with their parents and siblings. Federal policy cannot allow this industrial scale child abuse to continue.
All right.
Finally, the conservatives should gratefully celebrate the greatest pro-family win in a generation, overturning Roe versus Wade, a decision that for 5 decades made mockery of our Constitution and facilitated the deaths of tens of millions of unborn children. But the Dobbs decision is just the beginning. Conservatives in the states and in Washington, including in the next conservative administration, should push as hard as possible to protect the unborn in every jurisdiction in America. In particular, the next conservative president should work with Congress to enact the most robust protections for the unborn that Congress will support while deploying existing federal powers to protect innocent life and vigorously complying with statutory bans on the federal funding of abortion. Conservatives should ardently pursue these pro-life and pro-family policies while recognizing the many women who find themselves in immensely difficult and often tragic situations and the heroism of every choice to become a mother. Alternative options to abortion, especially adoption, should receive federal and state support.
Right. So this is the birth girth. This is already in play. Roe v. Wade was already broken. It was already dismantled. They want to take it further. You saw Trump kind of dance around that question in the last debate. It's not over. There was a kind of a crack in this plan, most recently with the Supreme Court allowing Arizona a little leeway, but this will be on the ballot in many states, in my opinion, including Alaska, which just placed it on the ballot for November. The Democrats are saying November will be Roe-vember. So we all know all about this piece. And they're very, very straightforward in talking about this. So this is in plain sight. Again, project2025.org. It's there. We're not making this stuff up.
So I'm going to drop a link if y'all want to come up, if anybody wants to come up and say your piece, because we got all year for this. Okay. I should have started earlier.
I mean,
sorry, I dropped that again. Hold on. Go ahead, babe. I'm sorry.
It's not all bad. Again, this is just their opinions and the way they see America being governed, right? The section that you just read, and they're kind of just going in on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying negative things of how it influences the kids. Okay, I can see how that could lead to addictive behavior. Actually, I think that really begins with parenting.
Right.
But anyway, I kind of agree with that point. But for the government to overreach and then force these companies to change things, right?
Uh-huh.
That means if they are allowed to do that, then the government, whoever's in charge, will be forced to change other things easily because they can use that as a precedent. It's a very slick way of going, yes, we should remove this devilish activity
Right.
from these places and we should remove it from all these other places. So it's really nice wordplay. I
Right.
admire their writing there. It's like, that's pretty slick. You
And
got
it
me, but you're not going to get me.
right. And I like someone said earlier, these people are literally, you have people saying that it's not real. I mean, the president is telling you, no, it's real, and this is what we're going to do. And I literally have had people, because of course I'm still up here arguing with folks. I don't know if I'm arguing with Russian bots or whatever, but I'm getting into it with these people when I'm finding them on, if I'm in blogs or whatever, and people say, "Oh, it's a farce. It's not real." And I'm like, "No, it's real because the president is up here talking. Are y'all not seeing? Are y'all not paying attention? Are you too busy worrying about Joe Biden and his stutter? Like, I can't. It, it's like Taraji P. Henson had to come on BET and say, "This is real. This is not a joke. It's not a joke." And finally, people just, if you saw the audience and their faces were like, because
What?
one in four people, one in four, that's a lot that do not know about Project 2025. So even when I was out talking, my husband this weekend, he was like, you got to stop talking to people. But my conversation was about, do you know about Project 2025?
Nope.
Nope. And literally, I probably talked to 10 people.
Eight of them said, nope, don't
Eight
know
of
what
them
you're talking
said,
about.
no, I have no idea what you're talking about. Literally. I'm not making this up. This is real. Hey, Mel, how you doing?
Hello, how you doing? Hello, Miss Sunny and Mr. W1.
W1. What's going on, Mel? What's your thoughts
Yep.
about it so far?
I know it. I'm not actually going to be I'm going to be very brief. But you know what? It was good that you read it because the thing that kept going in my mind was, how can these people create a document that they can't follow themselves?
Right.
I mean, how many marriages how many broken homes, I'm sorry, has Trump left in his wake of his fooling around and going around before he became a president? He still was, obviously convicted of 34 of these crimes. So he's not stopped. So even that man who was talking about, the LGBT this or whatever, like you said, for me personally, that document seems like they trying to take some people's rights and trying to sell their own.
Right.
Because the fact is they engaged everything they list on that paper. They know they do. They just want to sell away their rights or whatever so they can make more money.
Right.
I'm not intimidated by that man talking about some kind of war. Get out of here. I mean, that kind of talk and that stuff don't make it don't do anything for me. I'm still going to vote the way I want to. There's no
Right.
intimidation coming from those crazy people. But that paper was definitely it was a joke. It was a total joke. Nothing that you read about families, about moral character. I mean, moral character. These people don't know. Get out of here. They don't know about morals. They are criminals.
Right. It's insulting. It's insulting to your intelligence, is my whole point. And this is just the beginning. This is number one. So it's insulting for them to even turn around and say, oh, the president, to say, we're inserting Trumpism. They're going to call this Trumpism. You have all these family values that you want to place onto everybody else in this country.
And they have none themselves.
But then you have none. Zero. It makes no sense.
Absolutely no sense.
So I'm a fake conservative, right? because you're a fake conservative. If you're calling yourself a conservative and you're voting for Donald Trump, then you're not a real conservative. That's his point blank period.
That's right. Yep.
And but well, I'm a conservative when I'm placing all the values that I feel like you should be following. I never understood why people have an issue with what, and especially men, with what a woman wants to do with her body. And I'm speaking about Roe versus Wade. In the state of Texas, there are a lot of women that are, I think we talked about this last time, that are having issues having babies and then almost, dying to have a child. Let me add Keyshawn. Hi, Keyshawn.
Hi, Sunny. How are you?
I'm good. Go ahead, sweetie. What you want to say?
Oh, first of all, I want to thank you for having this type of platform. When I first came onto YouTube years ago, I was into politics. I've been a canvasser for over 15, 20 years. So again, I thank you because you look like me. So that's even better to actually hear different perspectives. So with the Project 2025, I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked with the Moynihan report from the late 60s, I think it was, or early 70s. This is nothing new. The fact that they're very blatant about it, if anything, we should look at that as an aha moment for us and reorganize and kind of understand that respectfully, even both parties were familiar with this particular project and coming out before it did. We have to be honest about it. And this is an opportunity for us as a collective, a melanated collective, to figure out what's in our best interest. And we have another 4 years to kind of reorganize ourselves from a grassroots level, from a local, state, and then national level, that we really can have a political impact. Because Stacey B said something earlier in the chat about they all being the R word, and I agree. They're truly cut from the same coin. It's just, they decided to shift a few centuries ago or whatever. So for us, we should look at this as an opportunity, while they're not paying really a lot of attention to us, to build our own, to have our own political power. If they could do it in third party and went with like a Roosevelt and such, why can't we? So that's kind of what I wanted to bring to the panel. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I like that, because let me ask you this though, Keyshawn, since I have you here. What do you believe is our issue when it comes to Black people, and specifically Black men that are Republicans, and also Democratic Black men and some women who feel as though, Obama didn't do anything for us as Black people. He didn't do what he should have done. And now you have a Black woman or a woman of color that's vice president. And they say if she becomes the candidate, I'm not voting. I'm just going to sit it out. And I'm like, does it matter if they replace Joe Biden? What is the problem with Kamala becoming president? Because if
Sonny, do you can I now?
Go ahead, sweetie.
Now here's where I am kind of an outlier, or I'm going to kind of, we may not see eye to eye, and just you will allow me just to paint the picture, I think you'll kind of see where different perspectives are coming from as well. Because let's stick with Kamala. When she came out, because she looked like me, I was all for her. And I mean, no one could tell me any different until I did not really hear her being confident in her platform. She was listening to other people kind of pour it into her. And when someone, tends to do that, they're not as confident, and it doesn't project that I have this type of confidence. I know what I stand on. With Harris, it seemed like she would kind of shift depending on her audience. And for me, as just a regular voter, not a canvasser that's actually canvassed for Black Republicans, Democrats, and also the Green Party, I want as a voter to know that good, bad, and indifferent, you have my back. You know what it is that you're standing on. I didn't sense that. And when I would speak as I was canvassing to get voters, they would say the same things. So when we have someone like a Biden who, with what he's been doing lately with the behaviors and everything, we can't ignore the fact that he is not presenting as a confident uh, um, leader, right? We have to be realistic with the fact that he is showing that he's older of age. With that, Harris, I would have preferred if the White House had taken more interest in her to really put her in the forefront. It seemed like they were just giving her scraps. She tried to work with the scraps that she was given. I don't take anything away from that sister from Howard, right? I don't take anything away from that. She does what we do as melanated sisters. She took the little that she had and made it work for her. Unfortunately, on a big platform, she did not get that recognition that at this time, for such a time as this, would have really benefited the entire Democratic Party. So it's like we're playing catch up. The Democratic Party is trying to play catch up. And with someone like Frumpleton, with his antics, who has the cult of personality, you all don't need that right now. Everyone needs to back the fact that Harris at this time, she will be a stronger opponent to Frumpleton. And yet Biden, with all due respect to him, the patriarchal, misogynistic type of demeanor that he's always had, he is going to go down fighting. On this one, we say bow out. It's okay. You can be, you can be a consultant or whatever the case may be, but let's be honest about it. For those newer generations, Sonny and you all, they need to feel confident that their president is going to last the entire term. And when I speak to the younger generation, they're not even feeling that. So that's where, for me, for the Democratic Party, go back in and regroup. You have time. People want to vote for anybody other than Frumpleton. Give us a reason. Does that make sense what I'm sharing?
Yes, it
Yes,
does.
it does. Woo, anybody?
Well, I had one thing I was going to say. I like I like what you said. Because me and Miss Sunny, we talk a lot about the grassroots. That's what we talk about a lot about. About to go into your local this one, getting introduced to people, stuff like that. We talk a lot about that. Like we don't. I think that we all agree that we don't want to feel helpless, because I don't feel helpless. I'm very interactive with my political process here. But I don't know. I think for me, I agree with you. I just feel like I see all the problems with Biden and with the current administration, stuff like that. But I feel like we don't really have many good options, and I'm just voting for sanity at this point. I'm just voting for people, or for people who I feel are sane. And that's just, as sad as it is, that's just where I'm going to it at. I really can't really. I don't think that we're going to fix any of these major issues with the Middle East and with all these things that's going on. We won't be able to fix any of this stuff until after the election, because then at that time you can really sort of gauge, Biden's how, whatever he's going through, whatever. I just simply need him to cross that finish line in November. I don't need anything to change, anything get crazy. I need him to, make sure he's strong enough and just get, fun enough. Because at this point, I feel like right now the election is not based on really facts and what's good for you. It's more based on entertainment. I think it's a brand. I think that the people who are the loudest and the most entertaining, those are the people that's getting a lot of traction. Even that debate, even though he was spinning all those facts, that went to the trash can because he wasn't entertaining. He wasn't energetic. And as you just said, some of the people are looking for energy and performance. And unfortunately, in this thing, Trump is the one, unfortunately, is giving it to the people for whatever reason. But he's also giving a lot of lies, all lies. So, as boring as it is, I'm just voting for sanity at this point. That's all I'm voting for.
Well, all I have to say is don't be disheartened. I think the Democratic Party of the United States has not done a great job in advertising who is going to be the next future leader. You have something there with Hakeem Jeffries, but I'm not sure if the United States is ready for that as yet. Again, uh, But going back to what I just heard about our vice president, she really does have a tough job because of who she is, her past, um, and who she looks like, right? If I ask some of my Republican friends, hey, who name the vice president for Bush number one, second term? The guy that couldn't. They wouldn't know. They wouldn't even know his name, let alone what he did. But because of Biden, because of his age, everyone is looking at our vice president, right? Hey, I can list about 15 things that she's done because I follow politics very closely. And I just don't think the Democratic Party has done a really good job of advertising it. I go back to year one, her COVID-19 response and economic recovery, how she was a big part of that act, the bipartisan infrastructure law. She's president of the Senate, for goodness sake. She was pushing that law, working with both sides of the aisle. She did a great job with that. I think she did a really good job behind the scenes with the environmental and climate initiatives, just doing her job as vice president. She supported the implementation of the Justice 40 initiative. You guys can look that up. She was a good proponent of the gun violence reduction. This is the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. You can look that up. Um, this caused a lot of, I don't know, discussions in many households, but she supported the Ukraine and national security uh, acts. And of course, the funding for the Ukraine war. There's a whole discussion behind that. Um, but she's also been everywhere across the country promoting equality and civil rights for LGBTQ plus. Um, and what we don't talk about is the American Rescue Plan again with the Affordable uh, Care Act expansion, supporting of small business. I can go on and on. The historical, what was it? Child tax credit exemption or expansion. I think this was I think it was PAR or ARP expanded child tax credit. All this stuff she's doing behind the scenes, right? But it doesn't get the headlines because it's not entertaining. It's not. It's boring. If I talk to you
Thankless
about the
job.
Yeah, if I talk to you about the PFSA Pollution Reduction Act, you're like, okay, what are we having for dinner? Right? It's boring, but she's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. But it's the vice president. She doesn't really do anything. I don't really like Kamala. Give me three reasons why you
Can I
don't like Kamala. It's like, uh,
can I ask a
it's.
question regarding her? Because I thank you for sharing what she has been doing behind the scenes. And that kind of goes to the question I think I had posed earlier. Why is it that, because I have an idea, why is it that the Democratic Party, especially the administration, didn't really showcase that? Like,
Right.
with Trumpleton and his VP, and, even when Biden was VP for Obama, um, we got to see some of those positive things that they were doing. Why do you think that we weren't privy to that type of information?
I have an answer.
Hmm.
They're asleep at the wheel.
Gotcha.
They're asleep at the wheel, and they haven't done a good job at all. Just as there's the Heritage Foundation and the Cato Institute, Sunny, on the other side of the aisle, there's the Center for American Progress, that's CAP. There's the Brookings Institution. There's EPI, I think that stands for Economic Policy Institute. There's the Roosevelt Institute, and there's the Third Way. Those are all like the Heritage Foundation, but they write different type of focuses and policy issues. The Democratic Party today, I think they should put those and make those things and those publications as popular and out there like the Heritage Foundations did with Project 2025, but they don't. Their blueprint and their plan is weak in those regards, and that's why I think they're asleep at the wheel.
Sorry, I'm gonna interject. Hello, Sunny W1, Mel NYC, Keyshawn. Good evening. Let me know if my Wi-Fi is tripping and you can't hear me. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can hear you.
Okay. I don't know if it's a matter of are Democrats asleep at the wheel. I think The information is out there. I think we have to acknowledge the sources in which we go to look at research, right? I hate when someone tries to tell me what bills are, and I'm like, hold up, is that your interpretation? Are you hearing it from hearsay? Did you actually read a bill? Did you read a law? Where are you getting your information from? If you go on Instagram, or I don't know about Facebook, but if you go on Instagram, you go look at the President of the United States page, you go look at Joe Biden's
Mhm.
personal page, you go look at Kamala Harris's page. They're constantly putting up the things that they have done, what they are moving towards, stuff like that. So, are we looking at sources that are either far too left or far too right? Are we not checking those moderate sources? Are we not checking .gov sites? So, it's not that people are asleep at the wheel, not necessarily. Do I think that we could be a little bit, actually, I'm going to say it. I'm just going to cut straight to the chase. In politics, we have seen generationally that this country and its constituents are far more too reactive instead of proactive, right? We react to things instead of getting out there. We react to policies that the president signed. I don't care if you're Republican or Democrat as far as who's in office, right? For me, we should not be waiting, our youth should not be waiting until the presidential elections to go and make their voices heard. We need to push out, like I mentioned before, and last week, I think, about Gary Chambers in Louisiana. He's a grassroots guy that's been trying to get the Black voters to get up in Louisiana to vote. Vote at your state and local levels. Congress needs to be overhauled. The Senate, the House, everything needs to be overhauled. The president essentially is going to sign off on boom, 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 but we have got to get a grasp on getting these boneheads out of these congressional seats. That's where the change is really going to happen. That in the state and local levels, right? That's just my opinion. I also believe that it's backed up by fact. We cannot phase out these barbaric 1950s mentality folks out of the congressional races until we vote them out. If we can do that, then we can move towards a more progressive, more all inclusive type of presidency. I believe if we would have voted out a lot of these senators and congressmen, we could have got a younger president. I don't care if Biden is slobbing, drinking 3 meals through a straw every single day. I'm going to choose him on his deathbed before I choose someone who I worked under, President Trump, who put me in harm's way as a Black woman, as a Marine, who does not give a hot damn about what happened to my dying father. I will always choose him over Trump. I'm sorry. Do I believe that we could all, get a more progressive, younger um, presidential head? I just said that. Absolutely. But we have to change the rest of the body first before you can change the head of it all. That's just sorry, I'm trying to calm down. This whole thing, I feel like is a master's class in gaslighting, this whole
Yeah.
handbook. So excuse my tone. It's not directed towards any of you. So I'm gonna go back on mute.
I was saying we
Thank you.
understand. Yeah, we understand because trust me, I know bullet points, and it was my first time just really reading through it, and had to stop and think, what are they doing? So I can understand your frustration, and I like I said, my husband had to stop me from just trying to explain to people just the bullet points of Project 2025, where, like I said, a lot of people don't even know what it is. We, people of color, do not know what it is. And we will be affected by it more so than I believe white America. See, they only have to worry about Roe versus Wade and women not voting. I believe, this is my opinion, people of color, we have a whole lot of other madness
Mm-hmm.
coming at us from Project 2025. This is why I always bring up the fact that the Heritage Foundation gave Ronald Reagan his handbook. They tell you in this document, this
Yeah,
book.
they did.
Right. But isn't it interesting, Sonny? And I don't know who studied law. I've been studying constitutional law forever. In the Constitution, before it was ratified, it talked about how no president, and I believe it might have been vice president and the one under them, could operate as as a president with high crimes and misdemeanors.
Mhm.
However, what the Constitution talks about is not what it is today and is left to continue to be interpreted. That's why we have to be mindful of who we vote prior to the presidential election, because that court that is above all courts in the land, the Supreme Court of the United States, that's who's going to ultimately lay out that decision to
True.
interpret the Constitution. And so, okay, so where is it at today? Well, Trump is a felon. He's a convicted felon. He has not received his sentence yet. Is he going to be the first president to have a felony? Absolutely not. If you break down and you look at the Congress, the senators and the House Republicans, all this stuff, you wouldn't be surprised how many of them have felonies and misdemeanors. How
Mhm.
many of them have R-worded and beat their wives and husbands and dogs and been out here with DUIs, blah, blah, blah. But the Constitution still allows them to serve in that capacity because the three crimes they're looking at, I believe it was like counterfeit stuff, piracy, and treason. Well, then another person could argue, well, what about January 6th? To me, that is a president that is creating treason. That's an insurgency,
Hmm.
right? So that is why I'm so passionate about we have to get our youth, and not just our youth, because they're looking for another STEMI. Let's be honest. There's not going to be another $1,200 STEMI coming from any direction. I don't care who's in the president's seat. It's just not. But that's where the young folks, oh well, we got a STEMI. We're gonna vote Trump back in for the STEMI. He's gonna get me some J's and get my little 27-piece, whatever. Right? That's the issue. We got to change this mentality by attacking things at the grassroots, you know. So I'm passionate about that. If I can have a felon running for office for presidency again, I would rather take the guy that he might fall off his bike 12 more times. At least he has some decency. He's not a felon, you know. But I don't know. That's just me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I agree. W1, you want to say something? Melon, I see.
No, just going back to a couple of points about the old guard in the Senate, which is old discussions, right? Chuck Schumer, 73, and Mitch. And I think Mitch is leaving in a couple of years. That's what he said. He's 82. So that's like 155 years right there of aged men making decisions in this two-party system. Uh, what I wanted to say, Sonny, is the fact that we're discussing Project 2025 bullet by bullet, point by point, and it's out there and for everyone to read. What does the other side of the aisle have? We don't know what that document is unless we do research, right? So we can't. We okay. What is the? Give me the 5 point Democratic point plan. What is it? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from Center of American Progress? Is it coming from the Brookings Institution? Is it coming from the EPI? What is it? They have heritage and they have their Project 2025. Boom. What do the Democrats have? What are we running on? Give me
They're
five, six
arguing on
things.
the floor.
See,
You know, I understand your point though. They're arguing
this
on the floor of the Senate every single week, but there's not enough traction behind them because it just
correct.
looks like it's the squad, right?
Right.
The those that are disruptive, that are challenging the American way, you
Hmm.
know. And sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. How do we articulate that and said, oh, I can easily answer this. Democrats are fighting for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Give me five. Give me five. See? But Project 2025, we can sit here and talk about 20, 30 things that's in that document. That's what they're going to do. Some of the things they already done. Um, so they have their plan. They have their agenda. They had their man, and they have their judges. And they want their man again to have more judges and to pass more things. They're like a train um, that's just moving at a high rate of speed. And we're having this discussion here, but I guarantee you there's a lot of Americans across the country right now that are probably prefer to watch a baseball game or an award show versus listening to content like this.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and then stumble right down to the ballot on November without knowing what they're going to do. As Stacey was saying, just to get a check, they want to just go run down real quick, put that little vote in for a couple minutes, and just go about their business, not knowing their whole world would be crumbling down. I remember for me, I used to love the Game of Thrones. And that whole 10 years, they said winter is coming. That's what it feels like. It feels like this
Yeah.
impending doom of something looming coming around. But I think that at the end of the day, you know what? Listen, I'm not running to a different country, another place. I'm staying right here. I'm gonna, as I said to me and Miss Sonny, we talk. Get to know your local officials. Find out who represents you. Participate. Don't wait till November to, put your ballot in there. It's a whole lot of things going on, and if the people that you vote for in your community, introduce yourself to them and talk about it because God forbid, it's only 4 years, and thank God for the 22nd Amendment. So that's what's going on. But even I think that video you were showing earlier, they was sort of hinting at that too, like, oh well, the president should have more power. Well, you didn't think about that when Obama was in office. Y'all was losing your mind. Y'all was like, oh my gosh, we don't want him to have 2 years, more or less the 8 years he has. So now with Trump, they want him to have about 20 years. They want him to be up there like Putin from Russia. So it's crazy. But at the end of the day, what can you do? We just gotta keep on learning what's going on and participating with stuff and not giving up.
Do you guys think that it will be, and ladies think that, if say the worst happens, right? We get Project 20, we get, Donald Trump back in office, we get Project 25 underway. Do you believe that there will be a civil war? B, well, this is a petty question, but do you think that if we go to a civil war, how many of us gonna roll up with our white folding chairs? You know what I'm saying? Montgomery Brawl style. You know what I mean? Like maybe packing some heat too, because I know I will be too. But I'm just saying, you know, are you guys concerned about that at all? Because conspiracy theorists are like, oh well, we should separate the nation into like three different regions and blah blah blah, north,
Yeah,
south, and then whatever's out west.
yeah.
So just wondering your thoughts on the Civil War.
I don't feel
Oh,
like it. I don't feel like any civil wars coming. I think they use those words to try to scare people. I personally don't feel that energy. I maybe because I'm in New York City, so I don't feel the anxiety that people might feel in Nebraska or something. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like that's coming. But but if it did, I definitely would help out my fellow man, especially people who I respect and love, and I'm definitely gonna protect my family. So that's that's what we're gonna do about that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel like anything's coming.
um, uh, I, I agree. I don't think there will be a civil war. I think there'll be some civil skirmishes. Um, and I didn't even think there were going to be any civil skirmishes until I saw most recently a bunch of people get together and march through the city of Nashville with their khakis ordered from Timu. Um, I I don't think there'll be a civil war, but it's not going to be pretty. No matter what the election results are after November, I think there's going to be a bunch of people that will not be happy.
Well, just from a military standpoint, right? I served under both Biden and Trump prior to me retiring. And I recall there were, conversations about that because Trump did try to utilize us in a manner that is not supposed to occur, like us turning inward and combating our fellow citizens.
Yep.
Um, which is why I can't stand him. That's one of the many reasons why I can't stand him, right? Um, Case in point, I had several Marines that were caught up in the January 6th thing, and we had to penalize them and kick them out and like all these things. But this cult-like behavior and mentality spreads. And it spreads easily through fear mongering, right? That's a tactic that a lot of dictators try to use and authoritarians, and it's trash. I'm gonna tell you right now. Granted, I'm a lesbian. I'm a cute one though. Say if I did get pregnant, right, and they try to fast forward me in 2024, and then all of a sudden 2025 take me back to when my mother was a child in the 50s, it's gonna be some problems. Okay, it is going to be some problems because I don't have a 1950s mentality. You're not gonna tell me what to do with my body. I'm gonna talk back, and I guess I'm not gonna be the barefoot, pregnant, submissive. I'm a working woman. I'm independent. I'm, forward thinking. It's just gonna be some problems, and I think that the reason why these quote unquote contributors are putting these barbaric and taking us backwards to such time frames is because I think I put in the chat earlier, if you look at the amount of youth and scholars that we have today versus even back then, especially Black scholars, right? That's something that they fear. How dare you be educated? Because if you're educated, that is power.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the main component, right? So I don't believe that there's going to be a civil war because our youth are these younger generations that are of voting age now that went through like these mass shootings and this, that, and the other, both sides of the aisle. They are far more in tune with life than we would suspect, right? They're not going to just lay down. And they're like hella smart, you know, technologically smart at that. So I don't know. I'm just rambling. I'm just like, I'm not gonna be no good 1950s type chick in 2025. That was the point.
Right.
I love it. I tell Miss Sunny all the time. I say I'm not going back to nobody plantation either. So that's what we're going to be. We're not doing none of that. So I definitely agree with you
Right.
about that. No,
You know,
I told my husband I'm gonna be rolling across the floor like like I'm in combat, honey, if it has to get down to that.
you,
that
you know,
that
if I
scene
could,
in that scene in Django, that scene in Django where the KKK and
Right.
they arguing about the holes in the hood and
Right,
everything.
right.
Man, it's gonna go down. Okay.
as you all were talking, I was thinking about the fact that we are not our ancestors; we're their wildest dreams. And
Right.
no, we are definitely going to bring that chair and anything else we can get our hands on. Like that's not how it's going to go down. And I'm feeling you, Lord of mercy, because back in the day, I thank the ancestors because I would have been like, I'm Kunta Kinte. I would not have been Toby. I would not have been Toby. And so I feel, you with that. And the universe is interesting how it places us at this time for such a time as this. And the things that the topics that you all were saying is so near and dear to my heart because it's about the grassroots. And if I could just take a couple of minutes to share that I did do some content like I think like 2016 or so saying to us, you know what, let's take this L because I'm telling them everybody Crumpleton is going to win this thing. He's been selected. Trust me on this. Just take this time to do local and state so that we will have more power in our school systems and how the police is run and how much money is put in it. And just parks and recreations. We can get that swimming pool for our kids and just different things like that because I don't have a big group. Of course, not too many people heard it, but just hearing you all speak on that, it gives me hope that we can do this while we're taking this L because either way, we're going to take an L. Let's just go ahead on and restructure ourselves. And hearing you guys with the information and the insight that you're sharing, again, it really gives me more motivation to get out there and do it. So
Yeah.
thank you.
I love it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
so Lord
I
have
think
mercy, you Stacy, you asked me to go look up some. So what I did
Yeah,
find,
my name's Stacy B.
it says that congressional leaders.
Lord mercy.
You're right. It says that congressional leaders from task force to counter project 20 to counter project 2025 and defend democracy. This is the article I found from Jared Huffman. He's U.S. congressman serving California's district. He says U.S. Representative Jared Huffman announced the formation of a new working group designed to stop Project 2025. It says that they talk about Trump is trying to seize supreme powers and radically undermine reproductive rights, LGBTQ equality, racial justice, free speech, and other democratic institutions and freedoms. The Stop Project 2025 task force will serve as a central hub for pro-democracy members of Congress, civil society, and affected communities to coordinate on examining, highlighting, preempting, and counteracting the right-wing plot to undermine the democracy. What's the lady Red was talking about the last time? The lady that has no hair. That has
Ayana. I know. I think it's Ayana. Her and Crockett and AOC been on it, and Rashida Tlaib. But Ayana, I believe, is her first name. I can't remember her second name.
So it says, here are the members of the task force that represents the diversity of the Democratic caucus and are leaders on many of the issues currently under attack by Project 2025. Founder members joining Rep. Huffman are Democratic caucus Vice Chair Ted Lieu, Chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Nanette Barragan, I think that's how you say her name, Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus Chair Judy Chu, Equality Caucus and Labor Caucus Chair Mark Pocan, Pro-Choice Caucus Co-Chair Diana DeJet, Co-Chair of the Congressional Free Thought Caucus and Ranking Member of Oversight Jamie Raskin, and Progressive Caucus Chair Pramila Jayapal. And they just go on to talk about Project 2025. So that's all I found so far.
All right, thank you.
But I'll do more research on it because I never thought about trying to find how since my husband says what are the Democrats doing.
Well, they've been very vocal, like I said, on the floor, right? Very vocal. Not only on the floor of the House, but also out in the streets. Anybody can plug it in and look at it on social media, even on all over YouTube. You can find it. It's all over my feed. And so again, I mean, it would be nice, like W1 said, to see actual task force or like what is the counter, means to that. So I'm glad that you read that. You brought that to light.
No problem. Elizabeth Davis says Trump is not supporting Project 2025. It's not his proposal. That's fake news.
Classic.
I dropped the link, Elizabeth, if you would like to come up, because I know you follow me. She's a Trump supporter.
The same way that when the situation happened in Charlottesville, that he said that there were good people on both sides. Elizabeth, respectfully, Sonny, thank you.
Yes, thank you for saying that, Keyshawn.
Yes, Ayanna Presley. Thank you, Michelle.
Ayanna Presley, thank you.
And Miss Elizabeth, no one said that it is Trump's proposal. I hope you've been listening from the start. But if you believe for a second that Trump does not back it, I don't know what to tell you.
He's literally already backed at least 3 pieces of the 98-page document.
Correct.
Right, and I was going to say too to Ms. Elizabeth, Trump don't have any proposal. He has no ideas, and quite frankly, he's a puppet to these kind of people. Is what we're trying to say. That mostly these kind of, crazy, whoever these people from Heritage, they're his puppet master, is what I would probably say.
Right.
What's a fine example of that? When they were trying to repeal Obamacare for 8 to 12 years, and when Trump took office, mind you, I was a Marine under his charge. They had no plan, Elizabeth. So we would love for you to come up just to offer your different perspective, because maybe it's something we don't know, you know?
I would love to have a Trump supporter, like a diehard Trump supporter, to come up and give us their point of view. And I'm not talking, I don't want to hear like right wing talking points. I want to hear why Trump supporters, we talked about this earlier today, Mel, too. Why are you voting for Trump? I mean, she put here the open border is the desolation invasion turning the United States into a slave farm for third world
Oh, Lord.
gazillionaires. That's a talking point.
But we can sit here and debate about opinions until the sun rises in the east. Where are the facts, the numbers?
Right.
I think former President Trump was trying to bring that up in the most recent debate, but there's no bring the numbers, bring the data, um, the facts, and then uh, we can have a better discussion.
Yeah, she probably just came over to say her little point of view and left.
That's good. That's
Well,
good.
that means, you know what? That means that she's smarter
MAGA!
than, that means that she's smarter than Trump. That's what it means right there. That she
Well,
you know.
you know what I consider crazy? I watch a lot of political videos, interviews of MAGA supporters.
Mhm.
Um, and one subscribing channel that I watch, they're hilarious because I mean they're sending these white young guys in, so off rip the MAGA supporters are like, yeah, woo, he's one of ours, whatever. And then they read off something that Trump says and pretends like it was Biden, and these supporters are like, ew, that's un-American.
Right.
That is treasonous. That is a traitor. And then they'll be like, oh, you know what? I made a mistake. That was actually President Trump that said that. And they're like, oh, well, you know what? Well, I
Mhm.
think, I don't think he really meant what he said. I think, because that sounds like a dictator and like all this stuff. And, he's a comedian, but he's a great businessman. I'm like, what?
It's the mind
Okay.
control. They are totally mind control. I mean,
Yes.
how can you think that when somebody read you and label it something else and say, oh no, I made a mistake. This is actually your cult leader, and now you say everything is come on now. What is going on?
And well, he has this hold on to these people.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I tell my husband all the time, because I get frustrated too. And I get to the point where me myself, I just have to like turn it off, because it makes me anxious just thinking about the possibilities if he does get in office. Um, and the mindset of these people, a lot of these Trump supporters. And I'm not saying, because we've met some Trump supporters that are just voting for Trump because they're Republicans, and they're not
Mm-hmm.
crazy. There's some nice people out there, but there are also some really mentally challenged, uneducated people out there that believe that Trump has come to save them, and they're okay if he wants to be a dictator. I'm okay with it.
Well,
That is their stance in that. They're okay with it,
I, I agree. I was going to share a story. So it's this woman who a friend of mine who we work together in this little common book workshop we've been doing for years. We just do it on the weekend. And she came here. She's from Dominican Republic. She wasn't a citizen, and I helped her become one by helping her with the testing and stuff like that. The moment she became a citizen, which was was a couple months ago, she decided that she wants to vote for Trump. Now I said, wait a minute. You see that he's saying that he doesn't believe in this and that and all that. So I think that I don't know why people do it, but I think for me, I feel that the Republicans have better PR, they have
Yes.
better branding, they have better, just more. I don't know. I just have it because I
Yes.
feel like the Democratic people are more old school. They just seem like, let me just come to the table with this book report, and have it be dense and be 2,000 pages, and I'm going to just hold it up, and now this is going. No, you have to have a character to that. That was the reason why, amongst many things, why Obama won, because he was so, just his aura, he just was so compelling. We don't have that with the Democrats. Well, we do have good people, but they're not compelling. And I think that whatever happens in November, God help us, we need to, as we were saying, we need somebody else right now who is maybe not 45 or whatever it is, just working on them, almost old school, where you just sort of, not grooming. I won't use that word, but just basically bring some compelling personalities to the Democratic or to the same party. It's at this point, even George Bush and other people, they were more sane because they were more about the government. They weren't about themselves to the most part, whatever. So yeah, I think that's what's going on. I think that they just don't have any personalities there, that's going to engage with the people on TikTok or the people on Twitter or that kind of stuff.
Totally agree. Absolutely on point. And that was one of the cornerstones of
Go ahead.
the
Sorry.
Reagan era. And by the way, which was written in part by the Heritage Foundation. Poster child, former actor, great spokesman, golly gee, all for family, Christian values. And a lot of folks coming to the United States they gravitate towards that.
Mm-hmm.
So they figure out, well, I must be Republican. Case in point, an example, straightforward. We had a lot of Cuban migrants that came to America, flooded the borders in Florida, and this occurred during the early '80s to the mid '80s, and they became Republicans because they bought into the agenda of Christian values, conservatism, moral majority, Republican, and which was a playbook directly from the originators of the Heritage Foundation.
Mm-hmm. It's almost like the voters are watching a Marvel movie where they getting caught up in this thing where it's like, oh, well, this is the superhero, so I'm going to follow down that road, and it just it's kind of puzzling to me, but what can you do?
Right.
Well, W1, you weren't here last week, but I'll just briefly touch on. I was telling Sonny, I was like, hey, that's what we were talking about last week. I grew up in Detroit and a few other spots, but born and raised mostly in Detroit, and which has the largest Iraqi population in Dearborn, right? And so a lot of my friends, their families own like strip clubs, liquor stores, gas stations, stuff like that. And they told me personally, when they came over, if you look at it from a socioeconomic standpoint, they benefited off of Democratic grants because at that time, their family would get $10,000 grants to start up whatever. They would, various grants, tax free for 10 years, for 8 years, 10 years, something like that. And then once they got established, they swapped over to Republicans.
Yes.
And so that happens a lot with
Yes.
immigrants, and that's
Yep.
just the reality. We'll benefit off of what the Democratic social plan is, but once we get established, we're going to go Republican because we want our taxes to remain low, like the wealthy.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what it is for those that I've spoken to. And I've traveled all over the world, lived all over the world, and that is a common theme.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. So Sonny and I were in a certain part in America most recently, and someone told us, if you're voting for a party because you're concerned about your taxes, well, you're not making enough. If you have to sell your soul to vote for a party because you want your taxes to maintain a certain level, or you want to be in a certain tax bracket where your taxes are not raised,
Right.
you're not making enough.
You're not making enough money.
What about the billionaires and the millionaires, the top 1% paying less than I am in taxes? You know?
Pay your
And
fair share.
yeah. And the other thing is too, like I'll be honest about or transparent about like my voting habits, right? Um, I am more of an independent. I don't go veer too far to the left, too far to the right. And in previous years, I voted my conscience. If I like the Republican here, boop, I'm gonna put him here,
Hmm.
Democrat. But overall, I'm a Democrat, right? But as of late, the last 8 years, it's almost had to be like boom, straight down the blue ticket because
Right.
I'm seeing, and I'm sure that there are Republicans that feel that way too.
Hmm.
And that's the pressures of society as an American
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
currently. And the reason why I had to do that was because at the time my father was um, passing away. My mother was not doing well. And I started noticing, like, oh, the Republicans want to diminish Social Security. Oh, well, that's not going to work because my mother survives off of that. My father does too at the time. Well, nope, nope, Democrat right here. Well, what about social and educational goals? Well, I see Florida's out here getting rid of African American history books. Nope, blue over here. So it's become
Hmm.
almost a sense of having to vote, even if we don't want to be too far to the left, we're having to vote or to the right,
Yeah.
vote on survival mode.
Yeah.
And I don't appreciate that.
I agree.
And I may have said last week, I'm not sure. I live in North Carolina, also Georgia. I have a home out there, but I primarily live in North Carolina, have been for a while now when I retired. And we have obviously Republican congressman, and I know him personally. He has had to step in and do some things on behalf of me and the Marine Corps and some of my Marines. So that's why I was like, well, okay, I could put a check for him, right? And so it's just crazy that, yeah, you should. I don't care who you vote for, vote your conscience. But at this moment in time, when we see this Project 25, this is not, a black and white thing. It's not it's not that easy. And I have a feeling, Keyshawn mentioned earlier, that we might as well just take this L, right? Or something along the lines that we can at least get it how we can, even though we're going to take an L in so many words. Or, benefit where we can, despite taking an L, because it's her belief that Trump's going to get in. I would disagree with that. And I may be hopping around, I apologize. I'm going to disagree because when Roe v. Wade got overturned, it was the women on both sides of the aisle that came together and said, hold up.
Yep.
And that, if you notice in Project 25, is who they're trying to take backwards.
Yep.
They do not want the power of women. I don't care what color you are. They are trying to silence and diminish and move us backwards so that our voting power is diminished. So, sorry, that was it.
Yep. Agreed.
I want to agree with you. And I'm also in North Carolina, and I think you'll appreciate this. I canvassed to get Jill Stein and Barama, what's his name, Ojama Baraka, on the ticket
Mhm.
here a few years ago. So I thank you for saying everything that you're saying, and I totally agree with how the politics are in North Carolina. It's something else, and I can feel Roe v. Wade kind of being that tilting of that scale. I can see that, and that would be a good thing for us, right? It's just the way that sometimes the evangelicals come out, girl. In the Bible Belt, it's a toss up. So that's kind of where I was kind of coming from. But you have a very good
Mhm.
point with versus Wade. Great point.
Yeah, I think that that's going to be the thing that carries. It's going to be, what do they say, a thin line between love and hate, right? That is going to be where we need to have hope and realize that, because like I said, these younger generations, these young women that are growing up, they're like, hold up, those mass shooter kids that now can vote. Like, well, hold on. These ones that are fighting about Gaza, that are all over the world, not just America, paying attention. They're like, hold on, my rights matter. My body matters. This
Mhm.
country is trying to undercut that because we have a voice, and we could not vote when my grandmother was a child, and when she was when she was a grown up, and she been gone like 20 something years. We got to hold out faith. And and no offense to the men on the panel, but it's a whole bunch of old white men up on the hill trying to determine what women can do. I don't care what side of the aisle you on. Women are not going to agree with that at all.
But they say white women will vote against themselves. They are the ones that it was a movie that W1 and I saw, was called Dissecting Karen. And it's about white women, Democratic women, who are your worst enemy, are our worst enemy.
We have to look at what happened last time, because we can all suspect and project and all these things, but there is a precedent, right? There's a precedent. When we looked at Joe Biden getting elected, the precedent was there. This last election, right? Everyone was upset. We have to refer to that because, like W1 said, let's look at the facts. Let's look at the statistics. I think that the key factor in that, Sonny, is the education level. Uneducated white women are going to vote against themselves. That's my opinion, though, just based off of other studies that I've looked at. Or this Karen effect that's going on. That's a good point, too, because it feels like, whoo, there's a whole lot of Karens that just came up from hell, from beneath the sewers. And I'm like, whoa, where was y'all at? I thought your grandmother's like faded out. Or where did y'all come from? And they're still procreating and having more baby Karens. I get it. So that might be the determining factor, because it is a whole lot of Karens now. And that wasn't yeah, during COVID they was popping up, but I would venture to say that the Karen effect might be a little bit bigger than what we suspect too. You're right. I didn't think about that. You're right about that.
Yeah, I too believe in the rise of the Karens, which may be the next big horror movie. But it's just not that. It's the rise of the Christian fundamentalist dissection of America that wants to go back to a clean cut version of America, where it was, I don't know. I'd venture to say the 1950s. Case in point, I don't know if you all remember the Republican response. I think it occurred this year, right? When Katie Britt did the Republican response, the way she was dressed, the way she spoke. Um, she was positioned in a kitchen, I believe. They just want to go back to that old-fashioned conservative values, and that's the cover for their playbook. Uh, Make want to call it Karen, whatever, but that's who they want to go back to.
I wish that the Democrats, the people who, because when these extreme Republicans get on stage and they talk about these fully developed babies, which it's horrific to think about. But I wish that the Democrats would come back and say, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a woman's health, because a woman's health is not just
It's
that
true.
late term pregnancy. It's also the pregnancies that can actually take a woman out. And also in our community, the Black African American community, the women having babies have a really high rate of death, even when the babies are fully fully gone, and you have a two family home, and there's all that kind of stuff. The death rate is really high there too. So I think that for me, I wish that for me, I'm voting for my sister. I'm voting for my aunt, my nieces, for their health. I'm not. I mean, a woman's right to choose is their right, but also there's other complications when you become pregnant. So it's a whole health thing. It's not just sort of this horrific image that these Republicans will, put on the stage. All this 9-month-old baby, that's a horrific thing to say to anybody. No, I think that there are people who've had these traumas. There are people who have, who can't bring babies full term, that can cause health conditions. People who have diabetes, all type of stuff that will complicate a woman's life. So that's why I'm voting. And also, if a person, is not ready, you see, the thing is too, they say that the Republicans will help you. What is it? The Republicans will help you birth a baby, but they won't help you take care of it. Basically, that once the baby comes to
Mhm.
term and is in this world, okay, well now we're going to have you, on the street and on a skid row somewhere and separating and yeah. So the thing is, you'll help the people bring it into the world, but you won't help them take care of it. So that is, I'm voting for a woman's for sanity. I'm also voting for a woman health, her health overall. Because it's not just that horrific horror movie that they want to put out there. It's not that. It's more complicated than that. Late term, pregnancy.
Right.
You know when that's gonna change? This is gonna be crazy, but this is my, and thank you for that, Mel, because, and anybody else, especially the men, I don't care where you at, the men that fight for our rights as well means a lot to me personally. I know a lot of women in society. This is where I think that would change. They want to say, oh, well, a child is a child or a human being, this, that, and the other, at, I don't know, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, blah, blah, blah. Let me tell you something. I guarantee you, there's multiple people up on that hill who got mistresses and side chicks pregnant right now.
Come on, now.
The minute
Absolutely.
that they change, the minute that, I wish I was up on there, because I'd be laying some laws out or some bills to get passed. Like, okay, well, if you say that, then we could collect child support, right? At
Right.
6 weeks. I could get food stamps at 6 weeks. Watch the minute that that comes across somebody's table, watch all these abortion things get reversed. And they be like, well, my little side piece, Michelle over here, I don't want to have to
Come
come
on.
up out of my pension paying for her, and my wife might find out.
Right.
Man,
Better yet, let the DNA results be the judge, and let the DNA
yes,
results be the judge. Let the DNA results be the reason why the woman get 5,003. I mean, come on, we want to
yes.
hold these people accountable. And listen, I'm a gay man, but I do hold my brothers accountable, and I love my mother,
Mhm.
and I love my sisters, and all that kind of stuff. I want people to be fair. I want people to be nice to each other.
Right.
Like, let's just have some common sense. Don't go out there going hog wild, having a nice time, and don't want to be responsible. As you said, most of these people have all these fears and all type of stuff. And mind you, even that bill where they talked about the LGBT community, which I'm a part of, we had a person in the closet who was in full drag in the Congress, who was a hot mess,
Hmm.
and they
Yes.
they kicked him out. And then we got Caitlin in Hawaii, wherever she's at, being a hot mess. They didn't accept her little skinny self either. So they all just joke to me at this point. So yeah,
They need charges brought against them
they
anyway for the wigs that they select, but that's another conversation. Their wigs are a mess. The other thing is, if you notice, all these men that are making the rules and regulations and passing bills and laws on these women, how come there's no male birth control? You know?
Yep.
Thank you.
Exactly. It's like, right, exactly.
This is how bad it is. No, supporting women's rights. I can't see who would be against that. I'm really struggling to kind of get in the headspace of folks who would be against that because it could create a domino effect. These laws against, that may be looked at as against women's rights, that's just the start of it. With that, they can use that as a benchmark, as precedents to create more laws that would go deeper into your lives, personal lives, and dictate change, what you can and cannot do. So I think that, along with what happened with Roe versus Wade, is why people are up in arms. So it may be a Roe-vember, not a November.
I hope so. And also, too, I was going to say lastly, and I might have to drop down, Miss Honey, because this has been a great conversation. I was saying in the chat earlier, this is the party who also say we don't want government in our lives. But now, when they were scared when the pandemic happened, one used the word, everybody was scared. But when that report came out that said that the African American people and people who are brown were more susceptible to the virus, then they want to take the mask off. They didn't give they didn't give a crap who was going to be hurt behind the virus. I said to you, I think here and also on the phone,
Mhm.
Biden needs to get these victims, the Trump victims, to get up on these stages, especially when it comes before election, to talk about their experience about losing their loved ones behind this man's terrible decision. When that virus came out, they wanted to invoke their American rights not to wear a mask when we didn't know how the virus was spread. So now you want the people to be you want people to be intimately in these people's lives, but you didn't want to wear a mask when the government said that we want to save lives and also get the economy to go back to the way it was. That was a big part of it. People would put the mask on, stop the virus so we can start working again. So you know what? They just a hot mess. They're a joke. They basically are the people that says, do what I tell you, not what I do, basically.
Right.
Exactly. I thank you for coming up, Mel. Anyone, any last words? Well, Keyshawn, I wanted to ask you about grassroots. Did you start your own grassroots?
You know, Sonny, because I am just little old me, and racial microaggressions are real. Okay, they are real. And when you're digging in the trenches, sometimes you have systemic hiccups. And I have been a target of a few of those. With that being said, I'm now able to kind of navigate my way because without the hierarchy of needs, you can't do too much of nothing. And I'm saying it that way for a reason. Uh, Now, where I am, it seems like I'll be able to start MOD, and I already have a name for it, Minorities and Others Determined to Have a Better America. And it's really about the minorities and not just melanated. All of us that are just tired of the Democratic, Republican, all that jargon. Some of us just want to have an equal, loving, just life, what we're entitled to. So for me, it's about now just kind of introducing the idea, getting some people to kind of join the movement and kind of seeing where it goes. Because I've kind of worked with all parties prior to for almost 20 years. So taking the different things that I've learned, I'll be able to apply for us. So that's kind of where I am on that journey.
Okay, nice. Because I think me talking to just talking to people want a third party. They really do. They don't want to be stuck. They don't want to have to say, okay, it's still this Democrat, Republican party. And like Stacy said, I'm an independent. I'm more independent as well. But what I do is I vote Democratic because I know, let me say it this way. I'm about social justice, and I think for me, I feel like you do, Miss Wilson, is that people should be able to have the right to do like everyone else. It should be an equal playing field out here. It shouldn't be just the Republicans and the Democrats because we're right now. You have to choose Republican or Democrat. There's no in between. I was talking to a lady at a restaurant and she said, well, I don't like Joe Biden and I don't like Trump. So I'm going to vote for Kennedy. I said, the man with the worm in his head? Like, well, yeah, what's my other choice? So I appreciate you doing those things and you get it
If I
done.
can ask you, if I can ask you a question, because I've been following you just shortly due to I think Evangelist Val, she said to come to your channel, and I was like, oh my goodness, she looks like me and she's political. Can you agree with me, like when that whole thing happened with the second Bush, where they just needed like one senator just to say we need to go back and review this thing, because I was in Florida at the time. So the controversy, of course, so much of a conflict of interest with how they were doing things. Would you agree that for some of us, that's when it began to kind of have a aha moment? Like, wait a minute, both sides are kind of weak. Like they're not really on our side. Like it's really the less of two evils. Like
Right.
that's kind of for me like an aha moment. I'm curious as to when your aha moment was.
To be honest with you, I was watching it, George Bush, and then my aha moment began with New Orleans. So I'm sitting there looking at this. I traveled overseas too. I lived overseas, and they were having a political moment back in, I think, 98, 99. And you had, I was in Italy at the time, and there were a lot of young people that were fighting for democracy because Bologna at the time was communist. And I happened to be there in that moment that they became democratic. And you had all these people, these young people in the center, which is near a church. And they were just, they were just excited and everything. And we're not communists anymore. And I was like, wow, I've never seen so many young people just all in the politics, right? I didn't, because I wasn't. So fast forward, we have, I'm just here during, I came back right after the World Trade Center stuff. And it was just a lot of conspiracies and stuff. And I remember literally saying, I won't get my channel taken down because I said, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now. Because my theory to this is that the government knows what's happening. Because there's no way in the world you're going to have terrorists flying planes at a school. You can't tell me that you don't know that these people exist. There's something else going on. And so I wasn't surprised by 9/11. I'm still not into politics like I am right now, right? And I was just blown away by it, that we have all these conspiracy theories about, it wasn't the planes that took the building. We blah, blah, blah. We all know those conspiracies. But living overseas and then coming back here, I say America is still the greatest country, right? And I've traveled in other places, not just in Italy, and I always say I'm still American. I love my country. And then I started really getting into politics for whatever reason. It really had to do with Donald Trump running for office. Now, I know George Bush stole that election from Al Gore. I know that was stolen. My husband and I, we talked about that the other day. I think that with everything that we as a culture have gone through as Black people in this country, we struggled a lot. Our ancestors struggled a lot. My father, I'm sure, I don't know how old you are, Miss Wilson, but we, had to deal with a lot as Black people, our ancestors and everything. But I still say this is still the greatest country in the world. And we may not always agree on what's happening, what's happening with these politicians, so to speak. But I still love this country. This is the country I was born in. This is my country. And, I shouldn't have to say, you know what? If Donald Trump wins, I need to get my passport together and get out of this country. This is my country. I was born here. I was raised here. My ancestors were born here and they were raised here. My father was born here. He was raised here. This is my country, just like it's anybody else's country that's sitting over there making up Project 2025, Donald Trump, anybody. I have a right to be here, just like we all have a right to be here. So when Biden was running 4 years ago, I said, I'm choosing the lesser of two evils because he has said some racist stuff too. You know, at the end of the day, I always say it's white people and then it's the rest of us because that's how they see us. Regardless, I don't care. I don't care who it is. White people, they see white people and they see others. Period. And Obama is a prime example of that. They didn't see Obama as being biracial. They saw him as a black man. Hence, this is why you have Donald Trump. This is why you have Project 2025. They have destroyed us black people. They are trying to tear us apart. They're trying to tear us down, whether it is through the music. They're taking away black authors where it cannot be, you don't want your kids reading about from black authors. They're taking away books. Oh, we can't talk about slavery because we don't want the white children to feel a certain way. We don't want them to feel bad about what happened. But it's okay that we feel bad. It's okay that, our ancestors had to go through it. And I still say this is still the best country in the world. I still say that. But we cannot allow these people to come in and just take over the way they're trying to take over because they're going to take more from us. And I've always said, even when I had my show 2 years ago, I literally said, I care about us first and everybody else second. That's just how I feel. And I'll keep saying that. I care about my people, black people, my culture first before I care about anybody else because we are last. We're always last. We need to be on the top of our game. We need to start putting our foot forward and getting into the players field with these people. Real talk. I'm over it. And if these black Republicans, want to run behind their master because they want, to feel, I can't even think of the word. They want to feel legitimate from Donald Trump. They want to feel like they're someone because they're part of this Republican Party. It's all bull crap to me. Byron, I don't even remember his name, but all these little black Republicans that's running around here, running up behind Trump, pushing their agenda. All those men are married to white women, by the way. Let me put that out there, right? So I don't care about interracial relationships. That's wonderful. That's beautiful, whatever. If you love someone, that's your thing. That's what you do. But when you're lost in the sauce, trying to convince me that black people were better off during the Jim Crow because they were, Tim Scott, yeah, he's one of them, because families were together. Well, families were together for a very long time after Jim Crow laws. After Jim Crow, families were together. It was the Reagan administration that came in and destroyed some of those families. Right? Telling people, oh, well, if you're on welfare, you can't have that black man in the house. People couldn't even get jobs. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. But the lesser of two evils. Yeah. I hope I answered your question because I just started rambling.
No, you answered it and then some because you're speaking what a lot of us have been saying or actually trying to implement in one way or another. So again, it's nice to know that we're not a minority because the way the media kind of portrays it, Sonny and Law to Mercy and W1, it's like it's either the Democrats or the Republicans. Either you're far left or you're far right. And that is not the case. I believe, like a few of you, there's so much of us, many of us in the middle, that we are just wanting to live a holistic, abundant life, mind, body, and soul. And we want everyone else to have that as well. And it's just point blank. and trying to find candidates that have that type of mindset, that simplicity, if you will, it's challenging because, like someone was saying, it's more entertainment. It's like a soap opera now, as
Right.
opposed to really getting down and doing the nitty gritty, which the Constitution says you're supposed to do. That's why they have it in three branches, right? We learned that in civics and whatnot. And it seems like some of the people there don't even know civics, let alone implementing what they're supposed to be doing when we quote unquote vote them in. So you answered it and then some.
Oh, thank you. 'Cause I know I just start thinking and I get so frustrated, like Stacy, and I'm just like, what are we doing?
Well, here's
Like,
what I'll add on, and this is what I'll add on too. As you were speaking, I had coined the term undercurrent racism
mhm,
because that's what was going on when Obama, in my humble opinion, was in office. There were so many of the paleface that were so angry, and
mhm,
they showed it with the nooses and all kinds of things. But they really, really want to show how angry they were. Like, how dare you curse our American society by
right.
having this tan brother that's actually intelligent, that has no baby mamas, that has no tax problems, that paid his student loan. I can keep going. He was not the Pookie that you thought that he would be because he looked like us. So
Right.
that cognitive dissonance was crazy. And so now you have a Frumpleton who's an entertainer, and that's all he is. And he told us that's who he was. But
Hmm.
those palefaces were so upset that what better way to get back at, excuse my language, but blackies, but to vote him in. And then Plumpleton says, have at it. Show everybody how you really feel, how you've been really feeling for 8 years. And they unleashed.
Hmm.
They unleashed. So that's kind of how I was, as you were speaking, that was kind of coming to mind that I wanted to share as well.
Yeah. I mean, I say that all the time. Trump is in office because you had a black president. You cannot convince me otherwise. Like, there's no way in hell. No way in hell. You can't be conservative and then tell me you're going to vote for Trump because you're mad that there was a black president. If you just say that, I have more respect for you. Because you don't feel there's no way you would put a Donald Trump in office. If there was a black man that behaved the way Donald Trump is, oh gosh, oh Lord, you would have a civil war. I mean,
Yeah.
let's be real.
Oh, okay.
You
But you
know?
know, that's the prime example of what Keyshawn brought up. His and you brought up Obama's education, right? Obama is the most qualified educationally. Uh, he reached. I mean, he had excellent grades, top school out of the last four presidents, right? And so, but historically, going back and forth, Democrats, Republicans, ping pong, especially in a time of war, right? It's like after 8 years, this country gets exhausted and be like, oh, we're gonna go Democrat this time, or oh, we're gonna go back Republican, you know. But Obama, yes, like you said, Sonny, there's white people and then there's others,
Mhm.
right? And I come from a very diverse family. At the end of the day, how dare you be non-white, highly educated, matter of fact, more higher educated than recent presidents in history? How dare you have swag? How dare you not have a scandal with your wife with drugs in the background? How
Right.
dare you be this cool? you know?
It's a
And they
threat.
can't handle it. It is a threat. And
Mhm.
that's why I don't care what nobody says. Education amongst the black community is one of and I'm not going to say is one of, it is the greatest threat
Mhm.
to America. And if you think back on it, one of you talked about the noose. Oh, it was Sunny. You brought up the noose that they even would plaster, even in comics with Obama.
Mhm.
News history is American history. And that's solidified. That's a fact based off the fact that they put it on January 6th for the VP, for Trump's vice president.
Mhm.
They don't care. They so comfortable in this country because it is a part of the fabric of this country. Let's hang who we don't like, or let's hang who goes against our Confederate ideologies. Let's hang them all,
Right.
right? That's my Southern redneck voice. You're welcome. No, but yes, but the problem, and it's a good problem to have. I'm so grateful and thankful that our ancestors, my grandmother from Mobile, Alabama, fought for our education, fought for our voting rights as Black people, as Black women, as Black men. Because today in 2024, when I see these posts of uh, all black all Black students wearing white coats in the medical field, all Black lawyers, which is what I'm trying to become, um, once I finish, right? That is a threat. We don't hear about that in mainstream media. We don't see those pictures because a picture speaks 1,000 words. That's
Right.
representation. How dare you, mainstream media, I want to show a whole graduating class of Black Americans with coats on, white coats, with MD behind their name. How dare you represent that to disenfranchised communities to give them hope? Biden ran on hope, and that's why he won. And though I am more independent thinking, this is this is a survival mode election.
Right.
This is a democracy uh, bending election, right? I don't believe that we're going to go full authoritarian. However, they're trying it. They're pushing it as far as they can go. I can't let that happen. And what's crazy is, Keyshawn, because I was military, I've always had to do an absentee ballot, right, voting. Do you know they sent me, and I registered here in North Carolina and everything. They sent me my voting stuff after the fact. There's so many ways that they're cutting corners and they're trying to maintain and keep us as a disenfranchised people, Black and brown communities alike. But we have to remain steadfast. We have to push up against, those that don't mean us well, even if we're the only ones that's standing,
Right.
right? Or the only ones in this sea of craziness that's like, you ain't finna do all that. We're not. We have to stand for something. Or we fall for anything, you know. And so I've been teaching. I mean, when Trayvon Martin and all these Black brothers and sisters were getting unalived. I live off the coast in North Carolina, Keyshawn. I live by the ocean, and I use that vehicle paint all over my window, naming all the Black brothers and sisters that got unalived, and I put it, and I have pitch black tint on my windows. I have to leave my community. See, and at that time during COVID or C-19, they tried to run me off the road. I've
Oh
had
wow.
guns pulled on me and my daughter. They just ended up fleeing before anything because I pulled mine right back out the window. But that terrified me because my baby was in the truck with me. Right? I don't mind going balls to the wall when it's just me, but my child is with me. That was a turning point for me again. I've had multiple turning points, but that was the most recent where I said, no, I'm seeing a political shift
Mm-hmm.
again. And it's becoming that's when I went from normal voting to survival mode voting, right? To protect me and mine. And I served this country. They didn't care that I had Iraqi war veteran plates or Afghanistan plates on my motorcycles. They didn't care. All they see is a Black person, and not all white people, because we got allies. Let's keep it a buck,
We
you
do.
know. But in order to be an ally, you have to stand up for us even when we're not there.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, and you have to
And
fight for our fight for our progression as well. But basically, all I wanted to say is our education is the biggest threat to this nation, and I stand 10 toes down on that.
Yeah.
if
Yep.
I can just say to you, and I didn't say it earlier, and I'm glad that you mentioned it. First of all, I want to thank you for your service. When I was like not even in high school, because I'm 52, when I was in high school, I saw this commercial where something about we do all before 8 a.m., before the average person does all day, and they were on the ground and stuff. I was like, mm-mm, that's okay, I'll pass. And saying we thank you, and
Right.
without you all doing what you do, I can't talk the that I talk. So I thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, and I mean that. It
Mm.
takes special people to do what y'all do, because when you come back, we treat you like dirt, and it's just It still to this day amazes me how we mistreat you. Because if anything, we should be just giving you everything, because
Yeah.
a lot of us aren't built like that. Now I'll be the first to say I'm not. If I have to in civilian life, of course I'll protect me and mine. However, to literally go and put your life on the line, that's not. I wasn't built for that, girl. So again, I thank you, Lord of mercy. And with saying with the ballot, I think his name is DeJoy, DeJoy, whatever his name is, from North Carolina, right? Thank him. They're setting the tone. I'm not surprised with the absentee ballot, especially as you know, in North Carolina, they had a major deal with it. And I couldn't understand why, because for the most part, they go Republican anyway. But I digress. It's unfortunate that someone like yourself, who's doing what they do for us, are being used as pawns in many ways, not just your vote, but what you do. And you all deserve, better than that. So again, I just wanted to put that in there and feel your pain, and say, and actually add this and land my plane. The more I speak, the more I hear you all speak, I should say. The shift, I believe, it's going to be with Black women, melanated women. When we realize the resources that we have, the intelligence, the creativity that we have, the innovation that we have, we don't have to necessarily reinvent the wheel. We just have to learn to collectively collaborate and trust each other, and know that we are stronger together than we are apart, that we have more things in common than we do different. So and I am optimistic. I don't have a problem with saying that. I believe that that's the targets. That's who we need to really begin to, in a sense, recruit from the grassroots perspective. Because not only do we bring, kind of a solution focused strategies and stuff, we also bring, in a sense, an empathetic aspect as well. That sometimes being diplomatic can save a lot of these battles and wars that have happened and that are occurring now. They're just like the ironclad, if you will. For men, that's what they do. I think we need both. And women, with our duality, we can present that not just in America, but in the world. Now, again, I know it's optimistic, y'all. I know it is. Doesn't take away from me being realistic. I just believe that we're capable of doing both things. Understanding in 2024, it's the lesser of two evils. But in 2028, it doesn't have to be, because we did the work, if that makes any sense. And I land my plane. Thank you.
Thank you for your support. I appreciate those kind words. Absolutely.
Yes.
And it's really great to hear these different perspectives. I really
Hmm.
enjoyed it. Have I believe one W1 said he's Republican and correct?
He's not Republican.
Uh, oh, now he want to unmute. Okay, yeah, come tell on yourself, brother. No, I'm just kidding. These different perspective, Keyshawn, such a valuable perspective.
Yes.
I understand the frustration. We all have it. I calmed down while I was up here now, Sunny. You know, definitely. But W1, the pseudo Republican, what you got to
No.
say, brother?
Well, what I have to say, and I think we talked about this a lot over the years, Sonny, is that we don't have the data to prove it, but we strongly believe a lot of Americans are centrists in
Mm.
nature, and truly, no one wants to be full right or full left. It's just not. I don't think it's just. I just don't think it's the right way to objectively look at facts and make voting decisions. Because if you do so, you will be a nation that's rooted in, I think, too much passion for politics.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll start looking at exactly what's going on in France right now. You can Google it, it's happening as we
Yeah.
speak. They had riots. I mean, those people are very passionate because there's no middle ground. There's these parties, and you're in 100%, or that's it. There's no room for negotiation. Here in America, we do have a two-party system, but we do have other choices. They may not ever win, but we have to be thankful that we do have the ability to choose A or B, and sometimes C if you want. So, let's take a step back and think about that. This is one of the greatest countries in the world, and we do have choices. And in some other nations across the world, they have no choices or
Right.
even one. So, the mere fact that we're able to come up on a platform at free will and discuss this is also a cornerstone of our wonderful democracy in action.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you know, uh, hopefully in 2028, like you said, Keisha, we won't have this struggle. I mean, we won't be here. But as we know, if we go through this 900-page document, the Heritage Foundation, they're not going to stop. I think they're just going to continue to grow
Hmm.
because of the propaganda that they're pushing out there, Um, like they said, W1 said that in Tennessee, they just had a Klan meeting, marching in the
the
street.
the
These are young
Patriot
people,
the Patriot Front.
well, yeah, Patriot Front, a Klan meeting. So they they are still, they indoctrinate these children when they're young. Hence, this is why they want to get rid of. They don't want to talk about slavery. They don't want to. They want to bring back Confederate statues, and they want to do all of that again. Um, so it's just a lot of. It's the it it may not be as big, you know, it, but it's still too many, if that makes sense, of them indoctrinating the younger group of people, white men, making them feel like, oh, you're being wiped away. They're going to get rid of you, you know? So they're putting this fear and this propaganda into their minds. And so now these young people, because it's mostly young people, W1, young white men that are marching, you know, when they say Jews and whatever won't replace us, it's those people. So, and Donald Trump really doesn't care one way or the other about those people. He doesn't care about anybody but himself, um, and his family. I doubt it. He probably don't even like his kids. He only like that little girl, the girl, his daughter. So I don't know what else to say, but we will be back next Sunday. I appreciate everybody coming here. I really appreciate you, Stacy, coming up, and Miss Wilson coming up, and W1 showing up tonight, and also Mel NYC coming up and giving your opinions and giving us knowledge. Uh, I personally would like to talk to Miss Wilson on IG to talk about some grassroots stuff, because literally I had been thinking about how can I do my own grassroots stuff, because I actually volunteered for Joe Biden's campaign um, the following day last week, and so I'm an ambassador for uh, for them putting out information. But I would like to start a grassroots, because the way we're going, probably we need some different parties. We actually do. I totally agree with that, because it's not going to continuously be Democratic and Republican. I think it's going to expand. I really do. Because I do believe that the MAGA party is going to expand and get away from the Republican Party. That's my opinion.
I agree, kind of like the Tea Party did a
Yeah.
few years back. I agree with you.
Yeah. So we need to have another party that's going to offset that madness, right?
The time is now, Sonny. If you know, I'm a huge Palestinian Gaza supporter.
Yeah.
This is the year that I think that, now I meant to say this earlier, so forgive me. I know you're trying to wrap the show. I believe that this year, if Biden does lose, God, please let that not happen.
Right.
But I believe that if it does occur, it's because the third party vote is going to be higher than we have ever seen it. Because so many of us are disappointed in this administration, not just Democrats, but Republicans as well. The support behind Israel is sickening.
Yeah.
That's my view. I stand 10 toes on it. I don't care what the Bible say. Them ain't the Israelites from the Bible. This is they're the current day Nazi Germany against the Jews, who would be like the Palestinians. And so that's where I think that this election is also going to be very close. It's going to hinge on that. Black women, like Keyshawn said, and I think women overall, is going to be that tiebreaker, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I know you're trying to wrap it. Thank you for having me up here. I'll drop down.
No, thank you for coming. I
Yeah,
appreciate your input all the time.
absolutely. I'll be a little tight, a little hot. Okay.
I know.
Appreciate it. Bye.
I'm sitting here typing.
Well,
Any
so don't
last
let me
words?
drop down.
Oh, you okay? Any last
I
words,
just
Miss
again,
Keyshawn?
yeah,
Miss
just thank you again. This is refreshing to my spirit. Just hearing that people that look like me, like, understands that it's for such a time as this there's a sense of urgency. Our children, our legacy, they deserve better. We didn't
Right.
have anything to do with it. We inherited it, but they don't have to. So that's kind of what I gathered from you all, and I thank you for that.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. Any last words, W1?
Um, yes, just a couple. I think today we have the information at our fingertips. We have the ability to retrieve data at our
Mhm.
fingertips faster than our parents did. So it's out there. It's just getting folks to wake up a bit and research and not just rely on two sentences they may see flashed across their screen on TikTok
Right.
or on Instagram or on whatever those other platforms are. So the data and the information is there. It's just for us to start reading, understanding, and looking deeper into the facts to make intelligent decisions that may shape the future.
Okay.
That was it.
Um, Here are my last words. I want to thank everybody for coming out. Hold on. Being here, Miss Keyshawn Wilson, W1, Mel C, Mel NYC, and Stacy. I appreciate you all coming in, giving us using your voice to educate whomever will watch this. It'll get views later. I think it is very important that we talk about Project 25. We talk about grassroots things. We talk about the future. Um, Thank you, Gwen, for our children and children's children, because it's very important. Um, we need to have knowledge. We need this knowledge. It's out here, like W1 said, it's out here to Google it. But I will return next week, next Sunday, 8:30, and I will go over more of Project 2025. I love you guys. I appreciate you all coming in. I hope you hit the like button. Hope you subscribe to the channel. Thank you, Alicia, for showing up. And you said you were going to rewind the show. Appreciate that. Appreciate your support. I will see you all next week, next Sunday, 8:30 here. Go out, spread the word about Project 2025. It's real. It's not a hoax. It's the real deal. And Trump is part of that. They will be giving him this as an agenda for the presidency if he wins office. Okay. I love you guys. Y'all take care, and I will see you next Sunday at 8:30. Thank you. Love you guys. Good night.